This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, Man Machine, episodes 1 and 2.
Detective Bobby Mann, Sergeant Eve Edison, your new partner.
Sergeant?
Eve had the highest score in the history of the department sergeant's exam.
I'm a retrieval expert.
Terrific. What's that?
Information specialist. There's a mainframe in this country Eve can't access.
I'm looking forward to learning undercover techniques.
You don't have any street experience?
Only on simulators.
I think you'll find Eve to be an extremely quick study.
It takes time, even under the best of circumstances.
And I dearly wish we had some. Unfortunately, internal affairs needs you yesterday.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast about technological advances in law enforcement. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
You know what's real is shows that have pun titles. Well, I don't know if this is a pun title. Well, so we're doing Man and Machine this week, but it's got this sort of, I'm going to say classic TV thing of having a character's name be in the title. My theory is they came up with the title first and then the show. So it's like this show's called Man and Machine, and of course the one guy's last name is Man.
I mean, you got to have a snappy title.
Yeah. In Canada, we had a show called Cats and Dog. Remember that?
No, what is that?
I'm assuming a Mountie, but it was like a cop who had his dog partner, but his last name's Katz. Can you believe it?
Oh.
Cats and Dog. It's the same show.
When was this show on?
Early 90s, I'd say.
I totally missed it.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Don't worry, we'll be watching it this season. Cats and Dog.
There are aliens in it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. The dog at the end, you find it was an alien.
Oh, are we just switching this show to only be about police shows now? Is that what's
that's
happening?
all it is.
All right, Jordan. As you said, we're getting into Man and Machine this week. Coming back from the hiatus, we did a big list of shows we might watch this year, and this one was one of your picks. Why this one? What were you excited about?
I think we had this conversation a few weeks ago. I think I picked it not based on anything other than how many episodes it was and the decade it happened, because I like to try to, when I'm thinking of what we're gonna watch, bounce between decades and stuff. And so this took place in the 90s. I think that was it, and it had a robot in it. That was it.
Well, I thought the robot might have something to do with it. But.
Yeah, but I think more so the fact that this wasn't a terribly long show, because my feeling was maybe this wasn't going to be very good, and then also it took place in the 90s, and as a bonus, there's a robot.
Well, I'm glad we're starting with
yeah, well, who knows? You never know. Maybe it's going to be great.
Yeah, we'll find out in like 8 seconds.
In 8 seconds.
All right, well, the show aired between April 5th and July 14th of 1992. You know what was happening in the world in that period of time, 1992?
In 1992, in July?
April to July. Summer show.
I'm not sure. What was happening? Do you have a list?
I got a small list for you here.
Great.
Number 1, the LA riots.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which is very funny because this show is about cops in LA, and they're borderline corrupt.
Do you think so?
We'll get into it. They're very nice people. I wouldn't say they're bad people. But their investigative style.
Oh, okay. I would agree with you on that.
Not even just borderline illegal, is illegal.
That's right. So the riots were happening, right?
I was just like, this is a bad show for right now.
Yeah.
2 people were born during the show.
Okay.
Daisy Ridley. Nope, said that wrong. Daisy Ridley.
Right, Star Wars, yeah.
Star Wars, right from Star Wars. And Kate Upton.
Who's that?
Supermodel Kate Upton.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Supermodel Kate Upton. You know, she's in your locker, that little poster.
That's right, yeah.
And one notable death.
In 92. I think this happened later. Sammy Davis Jr.
Nope. Benny Hill.
Oh, Benny Hill. You know what's funny? I haven't finished it because I just didn't have time, but I started watching The Italian Job, which I've never seen before.
Original or
the original?
Marky Mark?
No, I don't know anything. I don't want anything to do with the
They dropped those minis.
Yeah. So I started watching that, but I just didn't have time to finish it. And I was surprised to see that Benny Hill was in it, because I was like, who would have put him in a movie? But I think it was before he was...
Before he was Benny Hill?
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe people
wait. Can we call Kevin right now?
Yeah. Just take out your phone, call him on speaker. We'll find out the truth. Yeah. Oh, dear. All right. You want to get into this robot cop show?
It's the only way to do it.
All right. Here is the IMDb summary for episode 1, Prototype.
That was what it's called, that Prototype?
That's a pretty good pilot name.
It makes sense.
I like it.
It's better than Pilot.
So many of them
I
do
know.
Pilot. Call it Prototype, you guys. Los Angeles police detective Bobby Mann is teamed with a cyborg cop named Eve to investigate the murders of international steel brokers. Eve finds evidence that implicates another cop, who is also Mann's childhood friend.
Wow, that gave away everything.
This summary is courtesy of Gus F.
Oh, hey, well, Gus, I mean, you've kind of ruined it.
I mean, a little bit, but
But you
there's
know
still
what?
some twists and turns.
The enjoyment's about the journey along the way,
That's
right?
right. There's still some twists and turns along the way. He didn't give all of it away.
Although I have to say, I watched the episode, but I didn't know that was the overarching sort of plot.
Plot.
Like I didn't know what they were trying to. I didn't know what the guy had done. I was like, I don't really care.
Your eyes were open, and you were looking in the general vicinity of a television.
Yeah, no, but it was like you knew that what the crime was and all that.
I mean, I knew about the brokers and
Yeah, I didn't care.
stuff.
I didn't care. Season 2.
It starts off with a timestamp. It's telling us we're in LA.
Yeah.
We're in the near future. They
Yeah.
don't want to be too specific.
I like that. Near future. That's all you need. Oh, but let me start before that. We have to see the opening credits of this show are really odd.
Oh, sure. You want to talk about this opening?
They're like the main thing that you need to know is there's just like a lot of flash images and stuff, and then you get what looks like a mannequin, like a spinning mannequin, and what you realize is it's the face of our
the face
co-lead.
like dissolves on top of her. Like they do a dissolve, and her face appears on top of the mannequin because she's a robot.
Yeah, but then it does this amazing shot of like her face and like a green laser shoots out of her eyeball.
Oh, yeah.
And anyways, it sets a tone of like, what is this show?
The music is terrible, but I kind of love it. It's very beepy and boppy, and then at the end of it, as it comes to the end, everyone's like, all the chorus is like, yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
It sets the tone for the show because the show also has terrible music throughout. Like for whatever anything else on the show, good or bad, I think everyone universally would say this music has not aged well.
Well, the composer, I'm gonna forget his name now. It's
I know.
Mark Mothersbaugh.
I know,
He's great.
I know, but it's all saxophone,
I mean, I think it's just a sign of the times.
and it's all like erotic saxophone.
We didn't get to the end of the theme song because that's my favorite part. Is it's all these yeahs someone's shouting like thing, and then it comes to the end. This robot voice comes on and goes, "Man,
I know.
machine."
Yeah, it's odd.
It's I was just like, well, great use of music.
So, anyways, we're in Los Angeles in the near future.
We start on a little stakeout with Bobby Mann and his current robot partner, a gentleman robot.
Did you know it was a robot right away?
I mean, basically what happens is I was a little thrown off because the robot eats. And in this show, we'll find out robots can eat. Mm-hmm. But the robot also is like, should I sing you a song? Should I tell you a joke? And it's very much in the style of The Partnership and Almost Human. Like, it feels exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a recurring theme in this is how similar this is, not only to Almost Human, but all of the sort of cop partner shows you may have seen over the time.
This is a direct prequel.
It almost, you know what? I know you're joking, but it almost feels like it.
I honestly think it wouldn't take much retconning to make it a direct prequel.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They're there. It's unclear what the stakeout is, but they get a call over the radio and they leave their police-issued Hummer, I guess? Or did
Yeah.
he just own that himself? It's unclear.
Yeah, it's kind of looks like a kind of souped up SUV type military vehicle, but I did notice that a lot of the other vehicles driving around just look like cars from the early 90s.
Right. Well, I mean, everything. I would argue that the show looks more like the late 80s than it does the early 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got this Hummer. It's kind of great, actually. But they get the call. They run into the crime scene they're staking at. It's I'm a little foggy on some of these details, but there's a little person with a gun shooting at them, and his robot partner, I guess, what we'll come to see in a later shot is in his robo vision, he picks up the shooter, but he gets a height warning, and it tells him, this is a child, do not shoot, and the criminal shoots him in the face.
Yeah. And so that's the end of the partner.
Yeah, the robot dies immediately, and you get to know that Bobby does not like robots, because as soon as his partner is killed, he kicks his corpse.
Yeah. They make it very clear right off the bat so you can have that conflict of like, he don't like robots.
And that is apparently the first robot that's ever been on the Force.
Oh, is that right?
That's what they say. It's like, this is the first robot we've ever had on the Force. It's a lot. That's pretty cruel for the first robot to just kick him when he's dead.
Yeah. I missed that line, but that's kind of weird because they really are pushing the robots, like his lieutenant, whoever it is. So it's weird that it seems so already integrated, the robots, but maybe...
Well, there's a couple other cops show up and they're like, see him kicking his downed partner, and they're like, he's like, don't worry about it, it's a robot. And they're like, whoa, we heard there was one on the force. And he's like, it's mine. But yeah, we jump to the precinct sort of post this, and we meet his captain, Captain Cleghorn.
Yeah, that's a great name.
Top-notch name. Also wonderfully played by this actress. She played a character on Law and Order for like 19 years.
Yeah.
Which is airing simultaneous with this show.
Oh, that's right, because this is also a Dick Wolf show.
Yeah, Dick Wolf is one of the creators on the show. So this is very much in the early Law and Order period where they were like, you're a moneymaker, you're a gold mine. What other shows you got on your brain?
And he thought of this on the way to the pitch meeting, I think.
Well, we can talk about it a bit. I looked into it a bit, and I actually think he probably was attached along the way.
Right.
Because the other guy who's on this, who's, I'm going to forget his name right now. Jordan's helping me out with the little internet search here.
De Laurentiis.
De Laurentiis. Yes, the other co-creator, De Laurentiis. I looked into him a little bit. He's a TV writer. He's done a lot of TV writing. In fact, he's even very recently, he was a writer on Fargo, the new TV show. And he wrote 2 episodes of The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. Mm-hmm. So he's a fairly well-established TV writer now, and probably pitched this idea originally. They're like, we need a cop person to come help like elevate it as a cop show. Get Dick Wolf in here. Nobody does cop shows better.
No one knows the near future like Dick Wolf.
Well, that's what's so funny about this show. I mean, I don't want to get into too much, but like you'd think with a Dick Wolf show, cops in the future, I was like, this is going to be like heavily proceduralized. That's what he's good at. He knows how to handle a procedural. There's no procedural elements to this show.
Yeah, I'd agree. When as soon as you see his name on the credits, you're like, I know what this show is going to be, and it's not what you think.
And I think I feel like he's just pasted on there, being like, they're like, he's hot right now. This kid's got a TV pilot. Let's attach him to it. We'll be able to sell it to NBC or whoever's showing this show. Mm-hmm. And because it has no elements of a Dick Wolf show other than cops being in it. Anyway, this Captain Cleghorn, she, she's like, you need a new partner now. Good news. We've got this data retrieval expert. We brought her down from San Francisco. She scored the highest on the sergeant's exam of anyone in the detective squad. I don't know, whatever, the police academy. I'm not sure. And they cut to this woman walking into the police station doing cartwheels down the hallway.
Yeah. Well, let me mention one thing though. He makes it really clear when he's first talking to Cleghorn that he does not like robots. He doesn't want another robot. And I wrote down one of his lines because something I want to point out. He goes, I need a partner that doesn't need a lube job every 6 months. Which, all right, the line. Now, remember what the last thing we watched?
Yeah, that's down the calendar in America 2100.
Yeah, my theory is 6 months is the go-to joke for robots.
Every 6 months.
Yeah, a robot needs something. And it just was funny that we'd watched those sort of almost back-to-back in the same line. But yes, he's kind of complaining about the robot, a new partner for no reason. I guess, what are they trying to tell you? That she's different, she's odd, she's childlike?
Yeah, she's just like, we just get this scene of her flipping down like doing cartwheels, like huge cartwheels down, and she comes in and they're like, Bobby Mann, here's your new partner, Eve Edison. Mm-hmm. Both great names, by the way.
Yeah.
Both top-notch names.
TV names.
Yeah, so good. And don't worry, she's definitely not a robot.
Yeah. What do you think if Tim Roth played the lead role instead?
Oh, yeah, okay.
See that casting? A young Tim Roth that it would have been?
Oh, he'd be so serious.
Mm-hmm. Well, this guy's very serious.
You think so?
I think. Well, I mean, the jokes are non-jokes.
He strikes me as like, he's more like someone's dad. Like, he's very non-threatening, very like dumb.
Well, anyway, we're at the point where him and his non-robot, clearly not a robot. There's
no way she could be a robot.
There's no way robot. She's not acting like a robot. And they go, and I think they start on like just a shot of a hot dog.
Well, they get a case immediately.
Yeah, I know. They go right to work.
They're like, now that you have a partner, we have a case for you. Internal Affairs needs you to investigate other cops. And I'm like, I don't think that's how Internal Affairs works. You don't get a cop to go look at another cop.
It's like, don't worry about it. These two are on the case.
There's been 3 murders in 3 days. They're all foreign steel brokers. And the evidence at the crime scenes has been nothing. Like, they're super clean crime scenes. The only evidence they have is that, like, they appeared to have had bruises that would come from cop handcuffs. So we need you to look into cops. And Cleghorn, as you're saying with this hot dog thing, her suggestion is like, I guess you guys need to go to a barbecue.
Yeah.
Smash cut. They're at a barbecue.
Yeah, I love it. And so, but the point of the hot dog shot is someone is, it's a barbecue, so there's hot dogs. The non-robot partner looks, if not horrified by hot dogs, very perplexed at this human food.
It's a tube of meat.
Yeah, exactly. But she's definitely not a robot.
She's definitely not a robot. Oh my god. Yeah, it's this weird scene. It's very short. We get a sense of like she's not used to human things. And there's like a brief moment where Bobby Mann's hanging out with his buddy and they're talking about his grass because he just got real grass put in.
Yeah.
And it's the grass from where?
It was the baseball field. Which one was it?
Oh, the Angels. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I spent a pretty penny installing grass from Angels Stadium. I'm like, what?
I know, it was odd.
And basically after these two, I'm talking moments, these are like 15 seconds maximum apiece. He's like, well, I got to go home and feed my dog. And then she's like, okay, I'll come with you.
Yeah. This happens a lot in this show. There's a lot of scenes where someone's like, I have to go home. And the other person says, all right, I'll come with you. And they go, okay. But there's no reason for them to. This happens like at least 3-4 times.
Well, he's like, I'll drop you at home after I go feed my dog. I'm like, well, drop her at home. Like, don't go home, go back out again, and then come back home.
Luke, the dog was hungry.
We do get to meet his dog. He's a very nice golden retriever.
Yeah.
Get some pets.
Who has a really weird scene later. So
Yeah. This is a nice setup for this later scene. And they make some awkward, clearly robotic conversation. And like finally, a man who's had the only robot partner in the police force seems to start cluing in.
Yeah. He starts doing some tests of her. Like he starts, there's a lot of these.
He has to run an earthquake in 94.
Yeah. There has these like really painful things that shows feel like they need to do, which is either like give things to show it's the future. He's like, oh, remember when the San Francisco Giants moved to Tokyo, or that earthquake in 1995? And it's like, okay, we get it. You're in the future. But then the point is, she's like, I don't remember that earthquake.
Or she remembers. She's like, I remember that earthquake well, and he's like, that wasn't real.
Right. And so almost exactly to the second where he's like, you're a robot, she jumps and knocks him over because someone, like a sniper, tries shooting him. And then
she jumps out a window.
Yeah, she jumps out a window, breaks the window, goes like Rambo, and just like starts shooting everyone. I think she gets one of them.
She's one of the bad guys.
And then you're like, she's a robot.
Oh my god. I have a serious question though. Mm-hmm. Who was trying to kill him?
I have no idea.
He hasn't started the case.
I know.
No one knows he's on that case. These are just random gunmen.
I know, because I thought they were going to be like, oh, this guy we caught is blah blah blah. It's like, no, it never comes up again.
I was like, this is unrelated to anything. This is just a random gun violence incident.
Yeah. Well, anyways, she saved him. That's the important thing.
Los Angeles is a tough city.
Yeah. Well, after those riots.
Oh,
is it too soon?
I don't know.
It's 1992.
I don't know if that's bad or not. It felt right to go. Oh,
take that, riots from 1992. I think everyone's over it.
Yeah. I think systemic racism is over. You're right.
No, I don't mean that. I mean the specific riot. I don't think is a
it's
sore
not
spot.
Continuing to go.
Yeah, it's not because the things aren't still burning. Is what I'm saying.
We jump back to the precinct, and Mann's obviously upset with his new robot partner, but they bring him in to meet the robot's creator, which is kind of cool because they talk about how this robot is a brand new model.
Yeah.
Essentially, they propose the other models were like programmed, and this is essentially machine learning. They just give her stimulus, the brain makes decisions, and then does what it's going to do, which is exactly what we're doing right now with AI. Like, it's all just machine learning. And I was like, that's kind of cool, actually. This is basically using that concept in this robot. The one thing I was a little confused by, though, is they're like, she's the first of her kind ever, and we're testing her by putting her on the Force?
Yeah, I mean...
I'm like, that's a weird way to test your first ever machine learning AI robot.
Also, if there's only been a second, why do they keep giving it to this guy? What's so specific? Well, I mean, they actually do mention it, that she's just like, you're too tough, and we want you to be all rough on her. And it's like, okay.
Well, we want you to put her to the basis. But I mean, I guess if you were going to do this, like, just put him with the person who knows how a robot works. He knows how to give it a lube job.
Every 6 months.
Like, you don't have to train someone to do the lube jobs again.
Well, here's something interesting that comes out in this scene, though. They're talking about her, and I don't know if it's this one or the next one, but there's an important point because they say she has the emotional maturity of a 7-year-old. Now, remember that. She has the she's essentially a 7-year-old.
Well, I want to talk about this because this is, this is probably what you're going to be leading into, but Have you ever? There's a great video that someone's done, but they basically named this sci-fi trope, and it's the first time we're coming across it on this podcast. But it was a YouTube video by these guys called Pop Culture Detective Agency.
Okay.
And they basically named this trope "Born Sexy Yesterday," which is the idea. Like it's like Fifth Element. It's just like you have a woman who is unbelievably gorgeous, but has the mind of a child, and it's all set up so like all the men can leer at her because she doesn't know how to wear clothes, and but she's so beautiful, and everyone wants to get with her, but she's still a child. Like it's a terrible trope that is very uncomfortable, and this show is very much in line with it.
Oh, they go hard into it in this show. Oh, yeah. All right, they go real soft into it.
Nailed it.
Anyways, they push it hard. I mean, the reason I'm going to say it is there's going to be a scene later where it's going to become, as a viewer watching now.
You want to just say it.
Okay, so moments later, essentially after this, they go back to her apartment, I think it is, and they're having a scene, blah, 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 they're talking, and what happens is, she's like, I need to get changed, and so she starts taking her clothes off. You get a real, classic kind of shot of the camera panning down and seeing her legs as the underwear comes off or whatever it is, and then he does the thing like, I can't look, but I will a little bit.
Bug eyes.
Yeah, and so it's just one of those, like, the first thing I thought, I was like, but she's 7 years old.
Yeah, it's a trope. Like, we all know, we've seen it in a million places, but it is just like, it's such a, like, how you're writing this and you're like, you just told us she's 7 years old mentally. Like,
yeah.
That's a mess, you guys.
But what it does establish, for better or worse, and I think it's probably worse, is that she is really, as much as they sort of will kind of develop her character as you go in that classic sort of robot learning way, she's on the show to be eye candy, and they're gonna really push that home over and over and over. At least in these 2 episodes that we watched.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, there are, it's certainly of the era. Just like it's funny because watching these shows in the different eras, we can definitely see kind of the male gaze, and certainly in this one, he is less aggressively sexual with her. And does avert his eyes a bit, and he attempts to like put some barriers between him and his partner and be a bit more professional.
He's at least conflicted.
He's conflicted about it, which I think in the 70s for sure, and then probably into the 80s, like less so. Those lead characters, they could be a lot more smarmy,
right?
And that they could still be lead characters. At least I kind of in the early 90s, you can kind of say they're like, well, they can't be too gross.
So anyway, saying that we just know this is going to come up over and over in the show.
Yeah. We'll move on from it now anyway. They're kind of investigating the case, and I guess there was some grass on found on a shoe print at a crime scene, and Eve is running through the database of the computer, and she kind of matches the grass at the barbecue to the grass from the crime scene, but she doesn't put them together in this scene. She mentions them both to Mann, but nobody's like, we better look into this. They're like, oh, weird coincidence.
His sort of conflict in it is that he doesn't want to admit it might be his friend.
Well, I actually think they didn't even bring that up for like another 20 minutes of the show.
Oh, is that right?
It's crazy because like you assume this is going to be the clue that leads to the next step, but they kind of abandoned it immediately. And what we get instead is a scene where Bobby Mann argues with a vending machine about getting chocolate donuts.
Oh, and I know it's over 30 seconds because I already pulled it from the episode to put on Instagram, and it's almost like 40 seconds of what's like, and it's supposed to be a comical scene of, he's dealing with technology, the technology's futuristic, but it has the same problems we have now, very relatable. And so he's trying to order a donut, and it just, it's being difficult.
He gives him a list of donuts.
Hilarity ensues.
He asks for chocolate. He doesn't have chocolate, so he can't have chocolate. But what I thought was more insane was later in the episode, she'll show up with donuts from the same machine, and she has chocolate, and he's like, how'd you get these? And she's like, you gotta know how to talk to the robots. So that vending machine was withholding chocolate donuts.
It has sentience.
It's a sentient vending machine that doesn't like him and won't give him a chocolate donut.
Sure, why not?
Hey,
you know what? There's weirder things in this show.
I hope that's a running side character, this vending machine who just won't give him a chocolate donut.
Can you imagine?
He's all sassy, gives him a lot of sass mouth. That'd be a great show. We jump to a crime scene. They go to investigate one of the murder victims' things, and we get a cool like science fiction cop thing here where they're like, how you tape off a crime scene.
Yeah, police laser fence.
Yeah, it's a police laser fence. You have to show your ID, or you'll so it won't turn off, or it'll burn you badly apparently. And even as you show the ID, it starts giving you details of the crime. Like it starts saying it's like the victim was found at this time. Like it starts like railing off a bunch of crime scene stuff.
So now let me ask you, what do you prefer? The police laser fence of this show or the digital police tape of Almost Human?
Oh, this is more useful, I think.
I agree with you. This is way better. So that's a point for this show.
Although I will say, Melanie was walking by as I was watching the scene, and she's just like, push it over. I'm like, oh, I guess so. There's nothing stopping you from pushing that over.
Damn it, she's right.
I was just like, no, yeah, you're right. It's not mounted to anything. It's just sitting there. You could just push it on its side and walk by.
That might just, though, be of the not terribly high production value of the show.
Absolutely. As soon as she said it, I'm like, oh, no, you beat the system.
Oh, you know what I like in this apartment, though? This is the apartment in the crime scene, is they have a futuristic TV, but because it's the early 90s, it's still like a maybe 30-inch TV, maybe 24-inch.
Right.
But they put it in a gigantic like block that's also a divider, and it's just like it's the worst future technology ever, because the whole point of the TV is like, oh, look, it's kind of streamlined, but they put it in something that's like a wardrobe size.
Right. Well, it's because everything's CRTC screens.
Right.
Like they don't have CTR? I don't know.
Tube TVs.
Write in and tell me.
Yeah.
You kind of see this here too. Like this is kind of funny. The technology we see here is Eve has like a personal computer, like it's a little pocket computer she pulls out, a little in line with like maybe a smartphone. It doesn't seem to be able to communicate with anything, but it's kind of like having a miniature computer with you that she like plugs into her ear to interface with. Though, is she not just a walking computer?
Well, I mean,
it's fine.
It's always a thing. Why do computers have to go use computers? I mean,
it's fine. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
But you get to see a little of that. They investigate the crime scene. A man finds under a statue, he finds a piece of paper with an address on it. They then puts in his pocket and never tells anyone for 40 minutes.
Yeah, why did he do that? And then later on, he's like, here's the address. It was like quite literally a delay tactic for the show and for the character.
Well, this is where I was just like, oh, this is not a Dick Wolf show. Like, the points where they'd find a clue and then follow up on that clue procedurally and start putting it together don't have, like, they find, like, here's the grasses. Let's not talk about that for another. Let's do 20 more minutes of show first.
Right.
It definitely is weird. It's like slide in your pocket and they leave, because basically they leave there. They're like, let's head back to Eve's house. She has a house and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and not only she has a nice bar, a nice futuristic bar that has blue lights on it.
It's got the like the neon accents.
Yeah.
Which the police station also has neon accents.
Yeah. There's my question to you is, they're not lighting anything. Why are they there? They're just there to look futuristic.
Yeah. They're just there to look futuristic. It's the future. Everything's neon.
Yeah.
As we know,
The future's neon.
from 2019. She has her own home computer, this big wall unit that she then jams another huge plug into her brain through her ear and interfaces with that. And we get a quick shot where she's uploading her memories.
I did like seeing like robot vision, though. We see it a few times in this episode,
Yeah.
and I think in the next one where it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's sort of like matted around the corners, like in red lines, and then they have like, data information kind of coming up, a little bit like RoboCop's vision.
Yeah, it's definitely like, how I would describe it is it's just whatever you see on your TV screen is the video of it. In the center, there's a circle that it's slightly color timed differently, so you can see a circle in the center of the vision as if that's where the eye hole is. The eye hole, the pupil.
No,
the eye hole.
you were right the first time.
And then running down kind of the left side is like a barcode. Like
Right.
all the data is being barcoded beside it. And actually, when she plugs in the computer too, you get a quick shot of her memories being uploaded, and it's all being uploaded in ASCII. What is it? Not a coding language. I think I wrote it down here. It's an encoding system, which is actually something that was used for a long time. So,
But you make an interesting point, because we did see that earlier on when Mann's first partner, the robot, died. He went and took the little mini disc out of him and went and put it in the computer system in the beginning, and you got to see what happened. And so we need to see this a few times, that apparently we don't know how long their memory lasts for, but apparently you can just take out the little CD of them and just plug it in and see what they were.
Oh yeah,
doing.
I guess it's just like recording whatever visions they're having and like storing the data.
It's
interesting.
probably because of police abuse, right?
Yeah. It's like body cams, but in robots.
Right.
In this scene, we get a little more of Eve's life, because she obviously owns a home, and she kind of talks about how we've already seen they eat. She mentions that. She talks about how they sleep and even daydream. These are like unusual traits for a robot in these shows, but I didn't hate it. I'm like, oh, cool. So she really is pretty close to human in some ways.
Another side note. Do you think we're going to get to see her, like at one point she gets shot or something, we'll see like what the computer technology is underneath her skin?
Oh, they have to have some sort of, why have a robot if you're not going to like get in there?
I don't know, because so far you don't see anything like that.
Well, we do kind of see it in his first robot part. When he's shot in the face and he does pull that disc out, we do kind of see
That's true. It's like a green light or something, isn't it?
We get a tease of what might be inside the robot. But you're right, we haven't seen a good look at the wires and circuit boards and
that's what I'm looking for. You know it. I want to see some cables and some wires and some blinking lights for no reason.
I know what you like. Anyway, her research kind of reveals basically that all these steel brokers who've been murdered, they all share the same banker. And basically they're like, well, we need to find out what this banker's doing. And Mann's like, I've got a great idea. Let's break into his home and look for evidence.
Yeah, and they do.
Which is not a question, not like thought about it at all. And I'm just like, is this allowed in the future? And not only do they break in, he's having a dinner party downstairs when they break into his house.
It's funny because it's done in a way, you're right, there's a very flippant sort of like, we're just doing it. But I think the whole point of the scene was to create this tension. Like, can you believe, like that sort of classic burglar, has to get the jewel in the time before someone comes up. And they do that. But I didn't feel any tension in this at all.
Well, it didn't really. It wasn't that tense. I like they come in. They've got glow sticks to light the way. They're holding glow sticks. They find a wall safe, and it's got a retinal scanner on it. And, oh, man, how does she break the retinal scanner?
Well, you might have to correct me. Does she just have a suitcase available of eyeballs?
Yes, she just has a bag of eyeballs in her pocket.
And that's how she does it.
That you would think you could just hold in front of the retinal scanner, but she takes out her eye every time and then puts another eye in.
But I was disappointed because you never actually get to see it come.
Oh, it's a cheat.
In or out. It's a real cheat. Like it's just her like putting her hand above her eye, and then you're like, what's happening? And then she has, it's a new eyeball. I'm like, oh, come on.
I mean, granted, the YouTube copies we're watching aren't like super high details. I couldn't even tell if there were different color eyes anymore, but it did just look like, just cover your eye for a second and pretend you put a different eyeball in. I did like though the retinal scanner was just a laser that shoots directly into the corner of right into your cornea, and then when you get it right, the red laser turns green.
That's how you know.
That's how you know. They managed to like basically get these documents that are there. One of them of which is a hit list. There's one more name on the hit list who hasn't been killed, so they kind of know who the next target is, and we kind of do a weird jump cut because...
Oh my gosh, I know what you're going to say. It's the weirdest scene.
I guess it's the next day. I guess after this thing, they must have gone home and gone to bed because we basically cut to Mann's bedroom in the morning.
Yeah, I think it probably was a commercial break there.
Could be.
Yeah, so he wakes up and his dog jumps in bed and he's like, oh great, my dog's here. And then the dog starts talking to him.
Yeah, it just starts talking.
And it's the weirdest thing. Like the dog's mouth doesn't move. It's that thing where like you just hear its voice and it's just, it's a golden retriever just looking dopey. But basically it does this whole thing about it could talk the whole time and it's angry at him because he's not treating his robot partner well, and the dog's actually a robot.
Yeah, he reveals, I've been a robot the whole time, your dog.
And then blah, blah, he wakes up and it was a dream.
Yeah, he sits up in bed and it's a dream, and I was just like, that was wild.
It was a weird choice that took a couple minutes of screen time, but didn't develop a character, didn't progress the plot, didn't do anything. I'm going to assume this dog never talks again. So
the dog's not next episode. There's a chance this dog never shows up again.
I know. It was just such a weird choice, and I don't know tonally what they were going for.
I think the biggest mistake was making a dream sequence. They should have just like, if they're going to do it, just go for it. Just go for it. Make him have a talking robot dog.
I agree. That would have been better. Because then you just the end of the scene, you're like, why did I watch that? Why? And it's just... It reveals nothing.
Yeah,
that's why.
The dream sequence ends. Eve's dropped by. She's basically like, hey, among those papers we found in the safe was a check to your friend Grasscop, whose grass is from wherever, and I think he's a dirty cop. And Mann's just like, that's impossible. When we were children, we traded baseball cards. How could that man be evil? In fact, I think a couple times he says, no cop could be a bad cop. Which, considering the time of this is hilarious. He just like refuses to believe a bad cop could exist.
Yeah. Also, no one bad likes baseball, Duke.
Nobody bad likes baseball. Also, did you notice in Mann's house, full pinball machine?
I did notice that in the background. I'm assuming he's going to play that later, like as we open and we like pan onto it.
Just like ding ding ding.
Yeah,
ding.
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, they jump from this scene to Grasscop's house, where the two grown men are trading baseball cards.
Yeah.
And Mann just really wants to get his hands on that Joe DiMaggio card.
Yeah, that's it.
And basically, the scene is just him, I guess, trying to feel out of his buddies a corrupt cop. And he does that by trying to convince his friend to get a mortgage to put another level on his house. He's like, you should get a mortgage. You thought I could get a mortgage to put another level on your house?
It was the weirdest scene. And the guy's like, no, I don't want a mortgage. His friend's
like looking at his card. He's like, no, I don't. What? No, I don't want a mortgage. I don't want another level on my house. He's like, you should think about a mortgage.
I know, it was really, it almost played out like like a mortgage commercial you would see on TV where people talk about mortgages like no one does in real life, except in this world, people do.
Oh, man, this is number one go-to.
Yeah.
Like, have you thought about a mortgage?
Yeah, and it was
Listen, cops don't make a lot of money. He's a mortgage broker on the side. It's really weird. We also jump from this to Eve's place, and she's basically putting all the pieces together. I guess this whole thing is about these steel brokers have been killed because someone bought steel, and they've been making linear accelerator cannons.
Sure.
Which, I don't know, they're like quite large, but I guess still small enough to transport or something. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. We see them later, and they're like the size of a 2-story house.
Right.
But all they say is like, they're powerful enough that you could hit New York City from the Middle East. And I'm like, what? With what?
You know what they're like? They're like those. Remember in Almost Human, they had those like Russian people that were selling those weapons, and the bullet flew around on the buildings. It's that gun.
The remote control bullet. Yeah. It was never very clear, but they're like, look out, these are bad.
Yeah.
And you have to kill like 8 steel brokers to make them. Anyway,
Hold on. I had a question. I had wrote it down. Is steel brokers a thing? Is that a thing? All you do is you deal with steel.
I guess
in terms of selling it.
They're just a guy who works for a steel plant who like they have too much steel. Who are we going to sell the steel to?
So invariably, then in this world, there's someone who's like, "Oh, you need steel? I know a guy.
Yeah, let me call my broker.
Yeah, I'll call my broker.
You looking to invest in some steel? My broker can help you."
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, do you remember when they broke into a house and found the next name on a hit list that was sure to die soon?
Yeah.
But instead they went home, had a good night's sleep, traded some baseball cards. Well, they finally decided to go check on this guy at this hotel. He's dead.
Yeah. I know. There's something about the actual police work in this that there is none.
They appear to be borderline 2 minutes late. No urgency.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look, he's dead. And my favorite part of this is they go to look at the body, which has been shot and is dead. And laying on top of the body is a Joe DiMaggio card.
That's right.
And
it's the worst plant of all time.
well, and Mann's just like, well, this couldn't be my friend. Someone must have planted this. And I'm like, well, I mean, either your friend is so dumb, it's unbelievable, or yes, obviously. And it's the most obvious plant. Like, the idea that someone was like, I'll put this thing here, they'll think that guy did it because he's got a Joe DiMaggio card.
Yeah, I know. It's dumb is what it is.
It is hilariously dumb. And basically, Mann takes off. He seems to leave Eve at the hotel. He rushes back to his friend's house to help him. He gets there. His friend gets shot. And then, like, Eve walks to the door. So I assume she robot speed ran there.
Yeah. But then they go to... this is the whole sort of thing is the reason he's left her behind is because he's still kind of like, I don't want a partner. And now she's kind of starts feeling bad about herself.
Well, it's kind of weird. She feels, I guess, maybe a little bad about it. It seems to be the crux of this. I'm going to try to say it in the way I understood it the best. Is they go to the hospital where his friends are covering. Eve goes up to offer sympathies, but does a bad job. And Mann gets mad at her for not being sympathetic enough to him and his friend who trades baseball cards with.
You're exactly right. It's weird for him to have taken such offense from someone who he knows is a robot, knows is a maturity of a 7-year-old, and doesn't give him the sympathy that he just demands. It was so odd.
Well, and he kind of blows up at her, and she quits the police force.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I'm not a human enough. Bye, I quit.
I mean, to defend the show, they have a 7-year-old being a police officer.
Well,
that
that's a
probably
good point.
is how a
That's
7-year-old would respond.
Probably a bad idea. This probably 3 minutes there is just to set up him going to Eve's house to basically apologize and make amends with her so she'll rejoin the force. Like, she's been off the force for 25 minutes.
But when he comes to apologize to her, for no reason, she is acrobatically...
She's like Cirque Soleiling it on this rope. She's like got a rope hanging from the ceiling. She's like whipping around. She's like hanging from it. She's doing stunts. It's amazing.
And then he says to her something about how she's sweaty. And did you write down her line?
I did.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. My tears are merely a lubricant.
Yes, her tears and sweat are merely lubricant.
Yeah.
Which design fly think if they're leaking out of the skin.
Yeah.
Also, she says she's exercising. I have a lot of questions about how this robot body works. My assumption was it's just rods and moving parts. This implies it needs exercise.
I know, and she's also wearing an outfit that looks like something Sharon Stone would have worn from Total Recall.
Oh, well, this is like perfect early 90s aerobic wardrobe workout. Like a lot of tights, a lot of spandex. It is right up there. At any rate, they almost immediately make up. She wants advice on how she can be more human so they can avoid these mistakes again. And Mann's advice is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Is this when he tells her to like learn some expressions?
No. He says, if you want to appear more human,
Oh,
first
right.
off, you have to have a half-empty beer can in your fridge.
Oh, that's right. And then, yeah, his advice to be more human is to,
Throw your clothes on the floor.
yeah, be dirty. That's his advice.
Yeah, just like have filth everywhere. And I was just like, Jordan, neat freak is too much. You're not a neat freak, but you're a man who likes a very clean house. You love things put away. Are you a robot?
Well, according to this, I am a robot.
Man,
But who
would say you're a robot?
But his, like, one, I don't know anyone who puts half a beer in the fridge. That's
Oh, well, that's a crazy thing. It's like nobody on earth goes like, well, this beer is going to be flat by the morning, but I should probably put it in my fridge just in case.
and just all like, yeah, take the books, throw them on the floor. Like, don't put the books on the floor. Respect the book.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But this is how he tries to convince her how to be human. And they kind of just like get back on the case after this and look into the one clue they haven't bothered looking into, the piece of paper in his pocket he picked up 20 minutes ago.
And let me mention one thing, though. This has a robot trope in it that I'm personally done with, and I don't want to see anymore on TV, which is robots who are very advanced and can do amazing calculations and feats of strength and everything, but they don't understand expressions. This is a thing that they always did in Star Trek too, with
Right,
Data
right.
sort of thing, and it just drives me crazy. It's like you wouldn't be able to have a conversation with this person, and somewhere along the way, they must have learned some of these things.
At least some basics.
Had some basics, but it's like, I get it. It's a scene you show it's a robot, and she's like, what do you mean? Where is this stick in the mud or whatever stupid thing? It's like,
Right,
it's so annoying. And they do this. It almost becomes like a little bit of a character plot point for her. But,
I mean, it's a very tropey trope, and
Yeah.
it really pops up here for sure.
and I almost want to forgive it because it's 1992, but it just made my skin crawl.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But yeah, he pulls out this paper with the address on it that he found it 3 crime scenes ago, and they're like, maybe we should look at this clue I found. They punch into the computer. It's not an actual address, and this is where we get a tease of his how
His detective work?
his detective work works. He's like, well, Eve, when you don't have any clues, you know what you do? You make a wild guess.
Yeah. It was pretty good. They start
says-
start brainstorming and just random things.
Well, he just shouts out, it's a plane. And then she's like, it's a train. He's like, it's a ship? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, it's a ship.
I know. And I was like, oh, well, that incredibly insane theory worked. I guess that's how he solves crimes.
So they run off to the shipyard to essentially stop the shipment of these cannon accelerators. And we kind of get, a big shootout, classic almost human ending,
Yeah.
shootout, running. They do a weird thing here in the action sequences. They didn't shoot it in slow motion, but it's that thing where you slow it down in post.
It's the worst.
And it just doesn't look quite right, but they do it a lot. They're like,
Yeah.
it's exciting, slow it down.
Yeah. It looks bad, and anyways, it is bad.
There's a couple good scenes. Like Eve gets thrown off a railing by one of the bad guys. He comes down and shoots her again. And then he starts climbing a ladder, and you see her like put her leg back on, like it's kind of broken at an awkward
was good.
angle. And then she climbs a rope,
I know. People love seeing robots climb ropes.
and then like jumps on him and beats him. And it kind of all culminates as they track down who I assume is the dirty cop. It's so unclear who this final person they catch is. But he like holds a gun to Eve's head, and Mann does the most insane gambit I've ever seen. I don't know what this gambit was to like, I guess, get him to lower his defenses.
Yeah, so he's like, I know what I'll do. He's like, shoot her, I don't care, she's a robot. And the guy's like, okay. And he's like, and also, I'm a robot. And then he does a robot impersonation.
Starts doing a robot dance. He's like, bzz, 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 and the guy's just like, oh no, I don't know what to think. And they get the bet jump on him somehow.
Yeah. And that's how they beat him.
It was such a weird gambit, and it basically wraps up the show. I mean, they go back, and Eve is visiting Mann's house.
Oh man, this ending is.
Oh, that's right. She shows up and she's like, "Hey, I want to drop by and like, what did she say here? She's like, I'm upset or not upset. She wants to drop by because she got his field report. Like he had to grade her, and he graded her low on modesty
right.
because she stripped in front of him. And that was like him. He's like, you can't do that. And he doesn't say you can't do that because it's like inappropriate. He's just like, because men think things when they see people like you. It's like you could have phrased that in a less gross way.
He's basically like, you can't do it because you're too good looking.
Yeah. And then he's just like, well, I got to go jump in the shower. And she's like, can I watch? And he's like,
Yeah.
no. He's just like, well, can I sit here with my eyes closed and listen? And he's like, yes. And he like gets in the shower and it just cuts to her and she like opens her eyes. She's like,
Yeah. The joke is she's looked at his penis.
look at this dad bod.
And that's how they end this episode, by the robot kind of giggling because she's looking at him in the shower.
What an episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep this moving. Let's get on to episode 2.
All right.
I'll do the summary here. IMDb summary for episode 2, The Dating Game.
Well, that also is a good title.
Yeah, not bad. Not necessarily a good episode, but not bad title.
You know those personality tests I took today? I don't match up with anyone. Am I unmatchable? Unacceptable?
So you're not right for the couple of hundred losers who signed up for that place.
Actually, they have over 10,000 men on file. I wasn't close to one of them.
Look, Eve, you're doing great so far. You've been online, 6 months? Takes most people 80, 85 years to find out who they like and who likes them. Most of them still don't get it right. Come on, I'll buy you a malted.
A malted what?
Milk. What else is there?
Any edible grain can be malted. Barley, corn, millet.
Okay, I get the point.
I'm only up to the O's. There's oats, rice, rye.
Food group review will have to wait, Eve. We have a body.
Nothing in the series?
Candlelight, champagne, and a nice warm bath. You better get going.
Eve has her first date with the prime suspect stalking women through a dating service. That summary was courtesy of Gus F.
Oh, I hope this is going to be our new person.
I think we might get a Gus F streak.
I love when that happens. But here's... This episode had a really weird opening because it's sort of a POV shot and it's someone, it's like kind of panning around and what you see is someone clearly has been murdered in a bathtub and then we go to a bottle of wine and we kind of zoom in like dun dun dun.
Well, it's all in robot vision.
Right. And then it's like, okay, that's your cold open. And then it goes to the credits and then does what essentially is another cold open that has nothing to do with the episode.
Yeah, it's like a weird tease. It's like you get a robot visual, like no one's talking. It's just kind of showing you a crime scene through the robot's vision. You have no information. Like I just wrote, I was like, unimportant.
But it's not. But you don't know that.
Well, it's just that we'll eventually get back there and get all the information, but this was just like a tease of a crime scene they'll later get to as seen through the robot's point of view.
Yeah, but have you ever seen a thing where they do that, go to the open credits, and then go to another essentially cold open, and then go, oh, by the way, so I should just mention what it is. So we have then, Mann has been kidnapped by some sort of woman with a machine gun.
They're at the precinct. This woman's taking everyone hostage at the precinct.
Yeah.
She's got an Uzi. She has an 80s ponytail and a tutu on. She's essentially Harley Quinn from Batman.
Yeah, and he drops that great bit of dialogue. He's like, well, I'm glad that you let everyone else go and just kept me.
And her boyfriend's in a prison cell that either she put him in, or it doesn't seem like she's trying to get him out. I was unclear as to what was happening. In fact, she's in love with him, but she's like, I was unclear of all of her motivations and what was happening.
Well, because it doesn't make any sense. But the point being
We're
that
like median res for sure in this scene.
Yeah, and then suddenly Eve shows up in this ridiculous chicken delivery outfit.
Yeah, what was the chicken company called?
Oh, I didn't write it down.
Yeah, Superb Chicken Delivery.
You know what? They are good in the near future.
Ooh, Superb Chicken.
Yeah. Anyways, she's shown up in a costume and she's like, who ordered chicken? I'm like, why would the person ever have ordered chicken? But anyways, so Eve grabs her, and I don't know what was her point, to make her waste her bullets, because the woman like shoots the gun like a million times.
They knock her down, and she just shoots randomly on the episode. I did like her robot vision. We get to see her like looking at the suspect, and she like a bunch of things pop up in her robot vision. She can see what her weapon is, her heart rate, her respiratory rate, her pupil dilation.
That's important.
Like all of these things, the robot gets to get all these things. It's kind of fun. But yeah, and it all amounts to nothing. Like cops run in, they arrest this woman, and then Mann just like, oh my God, that was a tense hostage situation. He's like, I need to take a break. And Captain Cleghorn walks in and she's just like, you just started your shift 20 minutes ago. I was like, this is happening in his first 20 minutes of his shift?
Yeah. And then she's like, you don't have time for a break. You got to go into case. And they go on to the real case of the show. So there was no point to this.
Well, and basically the opening, here's the point to it, is Eve basically states what's going to be the theme of the episode. Is she's like, that lady was in love with that man. I don't know about love.
Right. All right, fair enough.
Which is, I mean, it's a very inelegant way of stating what the theme's going to be, but that's the entire purpose of it. What we kind of see is this crime scene we got a tease of earlier. There's a dead woman in a bathtub. Same MO as in their victim. She was electrocuted.
But how do they know she was electrocuted?
She bit her tongue.
Yeah.
They have to look in her mouth, see her tongue.
But it was just one of those things. She walks in, she's like, look at the tongue. I was like, whoa, okay.
And then Eve yells, let's roll, because she's watching a lot of TV.
And no, but what was the show she said she was watching a lot of?
She's been watching a few shows this episode. Show Mod Squad.
Yeah, like what, the Mod Squad's still it's not in syndication now.
She's watching Three Stooges.
I know, it's stupid.
It's very fun. I'm not going to get into this for the rest of the episode, but like they keep cutting back to like, what's Eve watching on TV? Shows that aren't on television.
I know, it's weird.
She's got Netflix. They're all on Netflix in the future. They go back to the precinct. The woman had a bottle of designer champagne there that had a designer drug inside of it. So they know that's kind of how she was lured to the bathtub. And they figure out the other victim and her were all part of the same computerized dating service.
Yeah.
Which Mann thinks is gross. He doesn't like computerized dating.
Yeah, he goes real hard against online dating. Like to a point where like he's been injured.
Well, what I thought was interesting too is I was like, oh, this is like, yeah, online dating, of course. But what we're learning is there's no internet in this world. You have to actually go to the place and do your profile there. Like there's no, like in this world, this is pre-internet. Although like in 92, I think you could have pieced that together.
So what their version of online dating is, which you'll find out later. We're telling you now. But so you go to this place that's sort of like a lab. Mm-hmm. You answer a lot of questions and essentially probably do some other things, some physical things. And they basically then create a profile based on how you've answered. Then that company, you don't go on a date. It says, we have other people who've also taken this test. You match with this person. Yeah. And then you go on a date with that person. So they essentially take care of everything based on questionnaire.
Yeah, it's more like a classic 80s dating service than it is online dating. Yeah. Although, did you like the word association you have to do when you go in for your profile exam?
Yeah, did you write them down?
I did. I was like, word association, this is going to be interesting. Here are the words that the technician read off. Naughty, passion, man, thigh, pulsating, sperm.
I know, like sperm?
This is the questions they're asking you to find you your perfect match.
To be fair, they do play the scene like he's a little bit creepy. The guy who's reading the things, and he's trying to get a rise out of her because, sorry, we're learning it, but basically, later on, Eve is gonna have to go undercover.
I mean, he was a creepy guy. I think these are just the questions they ask in this thing, though. Like, it's a crazy dating service.
Maybe.
I liked Eve because she had to do it. When they asked her naughty, she said tree.
Yeah, that was funny.
'Cause it's got nuts on it.
Yeah,
pretty good.
What would you say? Sperm.
I'm terrible at improv. First word that comes to mind. You know what came to mind? The word perm. I just dropped the S off the front. And I didn't want to say it.
I would love your dating profile. It's like this guy's this is really odd.
Naughty. Audi. It's an Audi. It's a car.
It's just like that's funny. It's just dropping letters.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at that. Anyway, as they're piecing this together, who should walk into the precinct but Dr. Sidney Victor, the man who created the dating service? He's also seen the victim died, has also pieced the crime together, has even pinpointed the man who went on the dates with the women who's the prime suspect. He shows up in the moment they're figuring this out. I was just like,
he's a real time saver.
This is some condensed writing, you guys.
It is funny. He just shows up and like, hey, I don't know if this is going to help, but I think I know who did it based on all the information you guys are just looking at right now.
Did you catch the name of his company?
Abelard Personal Technologies.
Great name, Abelard. Mm-hmm. I could say it all day long. Because they jump to Abelard.
You think it was supposed to be like an Abelard and Eloise sort of thing, right?
I don't know what you just say.
I just had this conversation with someone else because I mentioned it. Abelard and Eloise are the famous, sort of like a precursor to Romeo and Juliet of the 1100s.
You are a special kind of nerd.
Well, yeah. Anyway.
I mean, that's amazing. I don't know how you know it.
Abelard was castrated. Spoiler alert.
Is that how it ends?
Well, that's how their love affair ended, yeah.
So it's kind of like when they killed themselves, but it's a castration instead.
Yeah, he became a monk.
Oh, a noble calling.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, look it up, everyone.
Everybody. Jordan, you could write for this show.
Yeah, I guess so.
They basically invite this prime suspect in, this man named Bosco.
Yeah.
And he comes in, he basically has a flimsy alibi, and kind of as he's leaving, he bumps into Eve, who he doesn't know is a cop, and he starts like really flirting it up with her. And essentially, because it's a show about love, Eve is way into the fact someone flirted with her. And she's really going over his dating profile afterward, being like, oh, interesting man, a lot of interesting stuff. Did you know he hates his mother?
What I like, though, is that he's talking about how much he likes her and how much interesting, but like literally he just thinks she's attractive. Because as we've pointed out, she's a robot and very robotic. There's nothing in the personality that would make you think she might be an interesting person.
No. He's very clear in that he only goes to flirt with her because he sees her and he's just like, wow, wee, wow.
You're right.
But yeah, basically Eve's interested because he's interested. And when she gets home that night, there's a bottle of champagne sitting inside her house. Suspense.
Yeah.
But essentially, because obviously the killer, probably Bosco. No spoilers.
Yeah. Well, it's a chance for an undercover episode.
Yeah. Captain Cleghorn's like, let's send her undercover. The killer's already targeting her. And Mann's not into this. He thinks it's a bad idea. He's like, you can't be serious. To which Captain Cleghorn responds, serious as a peptic ulcer.
That's pretty good.
That was a good line.
Did you write down what his list of likes were? The guy on his profile.
No, what were his list of likes?
So this guy's likes were baseball, Czechoslovakian beer,
Oh, no.
and vintage Studebakers.
No, that's not his likes.
Who's that?
Cleghorn says Eve doesn't have a personality, so Mann has to give her a personality. So Mann gives her all of his likes, which are Studebakers,
You're right.
Czechoslovakian beer, and baseball.
My main note was Czechoslovakia is not even a country in a few years. It's the Czech Republic. Come on.
I know. And he also likes vinyl singles
That's right. Yeah.
and Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
So he's like, these are all your likes. Your likes are my likes. He basically
right.
gave her his personality.
That's right. I mixed that up.
Which is an insane personality for him to have.
And her point is like, she's like, well, why would anyone want a record? So you can have the whole thing. He's like, it's important to have vinyl.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, and
Whatever.
that goes on.
We bumped back to Abelard, and Eve does this test, which is very exciting because the tech who comes in is
know.
John Hawkes.
Yeah, young John Hawkes.
Like, almost unrecognizably young. It's crazy. I was like, when I saw the credits, I'm like, John Hawkes is in this.
It took me actually in this scene a little bit to realize it was him because, you know, he's playing the kind of guy. He's the guy doing the word association test, and he seems very nervous around her because he's nervous around attractive women for some reason. And he can't put the monitor on her because he might touch her breast and all this. And then I was like, it's John Hawkes. I was like, oh man, even he had to slum it for a while.
That's true. If you don't know who John Hawkes is, he's from Deadwood and Winter's Bone and stuff. Great actor. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And
that's true.
He was good. Like he wasn't bad in the episode. I would argue that no one's really bad actor.
No,
in the show.
I agree.
And you know, kind of helps your early '90s LA. All these people are up and coming. You can grab them while they're coming up. Anyway, they do the test on her. They do all the word association, blah blah blah, and then they come in, and her psych profile's like totally random. They're like,
right.
You don't match with anyone. And
It'd be like someone if you said sperm and the other person said perm.
Yeah, you don't match with another human being. You're a monster. Your brain broken. Anyway, Eve is so broken up about the fact she doesn't match with anybody. Like, you know, I guess as a 7-year-old, like that's probably would be upsetting. Like it's just a hard thing for her to take in. And Mann feels bad for her, so he's like, "Hey, why don't I take you for a malted milk?"
That's my favorite thing so far in the 2 episodes. Malted milk.
What is a malted milk?
I have no idea.
Let's get a malted milk after
I
this.
agree.
Great. It's a date.
It's got to be futuristic food. I love futuristic food. Now, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to find out there's like... It is a thing.
It's from like 1950, I'm sure of it. It's going to be like something you went to the like...
Sock hop.
The sock hop and drank.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, look at his interests. He doesn't like anything from before 19...
Also, vintage Studebakers. Come on.
No one
likes that, yeah. Oh, you know what he didn't? He did say baseball, but he should have said baseball cards. Anyway,
well, they're kind of doing all this. Another woman is murdered. Mm-hmm. Real high body counts on this show.
And we should mention the reason. So he's really Mann is really worried that she's going to go undercover, and he does mention at one point that's very important because even though she apparently can get shot and stuff and with bullets, and she can't get poisoned, she might get electrocuted.
Yeah, and that's how the killer's killing them. And she says it'll wipe her memory and it'll fuse her circuits. Mm-hmm. It is a real threat. Yeah. So he's right to be worried.
Yeah, stakes have never been higher.
Another woman's murdered. They still haven't really figured it out. So Mann pops back to Abelard to interview the secretary who works there to try to like pick her brain for anything weird. There's a little apropos to nothing him going back there, but
and this secretary really makes use of the scene she has.
She's wearing AirPods.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
She's got wireless headphones.
Did she have a tattoo or makeup on her eye?
She's got
what was
an
that?
eye drop tattoo on her face. Eye drop tattoo on her face. And did you catch what she was listening to in her little AirPods?
No. What did she say?
She's I'm listening to the new one by the Tron Drug Lords.
The Tron Drug Lords?
That's
like,
do you want to have a listen? He's like, oh no, thank you. I only like vintage vinyl.
Yeah, he's so annoying.
Anyway, he's like, can I ask you some questions? And basically, she's just like all horned up. She's like, why don't you come to my house? and you can ask me questions there, or I can go to your house because it's going to be mysterious. And he's like, what? Why? She's just like, because I want to bone.
Yeah.
Let's bone down.
What was the town she wanted to take him to?
Bone town.
That was it.
But it's really funny because he goes there, gets nothing other than this like really flirty secretary, and he just leaves. Like, I'm like, felt like that got edited weirdly into the episode that should have happened much earlier or something.
Agreed.
Anyway, they jump back to Eve's house. They're setting up for a sting. He's got the Hummer set up with surveillance equipment. Eve's in a very slinky dress for her date with Bosco.
Of course she is.
Mann's very nervous, and he tells her, well, maybe instead of going out for drinks, you should go see the new Pee-wee movie.
Yeah, I hear the new Pee-wee movie is good. I like that in 92. I'm sure Pee-wee's Playhouse was probably just like, people were going crazy over it before, obviously, the fall of that show. But it's just like,
I think how many after the fall.
Is it?
I think I looked it up before I came. I'm going to double check right now.
The fall, as we're referring to it.
The fall.
The great schism of 1992.
Of Paul. What's his name? Paul what?
Paul Rubens.
The fall of Paul Rubens. I don't know.
I really liked that show when I was a kid. I was disappointed when they took it off there.
It was a good show. And you know what? I read about it too. A very unreasonable thing happened to him.
I agree.
He got masturbating in a theater. Hey, listen, weird, but not a crime.
I know. It's like, that's what the theater was there for.
No, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it was what you went to. It's what was going to be happening there. But yeah, I hadn't really thought about it since then. So I went to look and I was like, oh, this is, let's see, when did it happen? 1991.
Oh, that is weird then.
So they're making this joke in 92. He's been arrested for this adult theater thing.
That's funny.
So I'm like, this is a weird reference.
Someone went to the writer like, you should take that out. And he's like, no, Pee-wee is the line.
Pee-wee's coming back. He's going to be back. And you know what? He was right. Pee-wee's back.
Yeah, true. I did watch the new Pee-wee movie.
How was it?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. So.
Yeah, it was fine. It was one of those, I had time.
I feel like I watched the opening where the alien showed up, and that was all I was. I'm like, no, that's enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Mann's watching from the Hummer. Bosco shows up. They're not going to go out, though, on a date. He's showed up with a picnic.
Now, let me ask you, was this was obviously not meant to be that charming, but it was just really odd that he basically was like, I'm going to take you away to like an island, and I brought a picnic, and then I put it
He's got a CD of South Pacific sounds. He's like, it was like we're on a beach. It would have felt like it's like, this is just basically a cheap man who like thinks this is just like what a man who's not very good at romance thinks is romantic.
Right. But she doesn't know any better.
Yeah, she doesn't know any better. She sets the picnic. He like very quickly starts getting like very aggressive with his needs and like trying to paw at her. And she basically puts him in an arm lock and Mann busts in.
But did you hear the line though? So he's getting very aggressive. She says no to him and he sort of pushes on and he says, to stop me no or to stop Maiden make me?
That's true. There is a really great line about consent in there.
Yeah.
I was like, that is like, as far as the line about learning about consent, I was like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah. And he, yes, as you say, yeah, she puts him in sort of an arm lock and then Mann breaks in. Clearly, he was on I think closed circuit, right.
Yeah, he had like a camera in there he could look at and he busts in. They arrest him, but Mann's just like.
Well, let me ask you though, does this fall under entrapment?
Entrapment? I don't know. It's a sting, so I think it's okay. I think it's okay. But when they arrest him, Mann's like, this isn't our guy. Like, you would never trust this man enough to get into a bathtub when he's nearby because he's such a creep.
Yeah.
And he was there for 15 minutes and he's trying to get it on.
He's not suave enough to be a murderer.
But Mann's like, all right, I'm going to take him to the police station. You stay here and enjoy your evening. And here's what I imagine. I imagine they got into the Hummer. He pulled out. 45 seconds later, John Hawkes pulls up. Because he seems to walk out the door, and as soon as he leaves, the doorbell rings, and John Hawkes is there with a bottle of champagne.
Yeah. And he's just like, look, I took the test, and I'm actually your exact match, and we should fall in love. Yeah.
He's just like...
in a very creepy way.
He's like, I'm not allowed to tell people because I work there, but I'm your perfect match. Let's go out and have a date. And she immediately calls Mann on a video phone. Cool video phones in the future.
Yeah.
And is like, hey, I'm going out with this guy. Can you come check it out? I don't know where we're going yet. And she hangs up. And he's like, uh-oh, I don't know where she's going. And I'm like, does this robot not have a tracking device? Did no one put a tracking device on this robot?
Nope.
This one-of-a-kind robot with the new AI that you're testing out?
Absolutely not.
No one's testing. No one's tracking what's going on. Mann basically has to go drive around. He goes and drops by Doc Victor's house and he's like, hey, do you know where your employee John Hawkes met a guy? He's like, nah, but he's a real creep. He does this to women all the time.
I know.
I'm like, so you're just he's just a predator. He's like, yeah, oh, he always goes to the women's houses that we do this with and tells them he's their perfect match. He does this all the time. I'm just like,
it's harmless.
Don't worry about it. He's a monster.
Yeah.
He then drives over to the secretary's house, who she's also like very happy to see him and already in a negligee or something.
Yeah, she's ready to go.
And like she's really trying to get it on with him, and he's just like, you know what turns me on, baby? Answering my questions. And basically gets her to like spill the beans about there's a corporate condo that the company Abelard owns, and that John Hawkes often uses it for these liaisons.
I'm going to make a point that has nothing to do with anything, but I just enjoyed it. When you first see the secretary before a man comes in, and it's her getting her apartment ready. I don't know how she knows he's coming over, but
He called ahead.
the only thing the actress does to get the apartment ready is she walks over and she squishes the cushions to the couch really hard.
Oh yeah, that's how you got to get the house.
And I was just
Company's
like,
coming.
is that how you're tidying up?
Company's coming. You got to push all that garbage you shove it under the couch cushions.
You know what she should have done? Opened a beer, had half of it, put it in the fridge.
Put it in the fridge. Make them feel at home. And we kind of jump to this corporate condo. I'm just going to point something out really quick right now, because kind of what we've seen is we've seen Eve's house. We've now seen the secretary's house. And now we're going to the corporate condo. All of these houses are huge, white, massive mansions.
You're right.
The secretary walks down a spiral staircase, like a huge, gorgeous... Everybody lives in just the biggest properties in the show, and they're all just like pure white.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Anyway, this corporate condo is there. John Hawkes basically gives a speech. He gives a classic nice guy speech. He's like, I used to be a nice guy, but women only like assholes, so now I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Don't you like that?
Yeah.
And, you know, the date's going real well, but surprise, one last twist in the episode.
Yeah, he's not the murderer.
Dr. Victor shows up with a gun.
Yeah, he was the bad guy the whole time.
And why does he have to kill these women, Jordan?
What does he say? He's like, he has to kill them because they threaten his impartiality when he's attracted to them.
Yes, he as he says, he has to stop his passions so he can be wait, what does he say? So he can be controlled by reason.
It's the lowest threshold for becoming a villain.
It's very low. Essentially, he's like, Eve, I see you found a swimsuit that's just been laying around here, and you've already changed into it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Which is true. She went and changed to a swimsuit at some point.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and there was no reason for her to. There was a pool. That's why.
Well, John Hawkes like, you want to go for a swim? She's like, yeah, let me go look around this house. Maybe someone left a swimsuit somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, good, they did.
Yeah.
And he's like, Eve, you get in the pool. I'm going to electrocute you with this wand, this electricity wand I have, which the prop department just used a hand mixer and then
I think it was supposed to be like a cattle prod, but it doesn't look like
exactly
that.
like a hand mixer. I'm going to electrocute you in there, and then we're going to kill John Hawkes and make it look like a suicide, and I'm off the hook. Great plan.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't count on one thing.
John Mann. Is that his name?
Yeah, Bobby Mann.
Bobby Mann. Doesn't matter.
I said yes, even though I was wrong.
Yeah. Man, whatever.
Bobby Mann.
Yeah.
Kicks in the door, wrestles with the doctor.
In that slow-mo again.
Yeah, again in slow motion, because this show really is a prequel to Almost Human. Like, we'll get to the end, time for an action sequence, but their speciality is like slow motion.
Let me ask you though. This is the second time in 2 episodes where someone grabs Eve and has like a gun to her.
Oh, right.
But we've now established a couple times she can take a bullet.
Yeah.
So why is he even why he'd just be like, yeah, okay, try shooting her.
Well, I think what kind of happens is he ends up pushing her into the pool.
Right.
And so I think he's just like, oh no, I got to save her because he's going to zap the pool or whatever. I don't know. It's all moot because like they wrestle. Eve gets out of the pool with John Hawkes. Dr. Victor gets thrown in the pool, electrocutes himself. Mm-hmm. And it like, that's it. Zippy zappy, episode over.
And then she listens to Otis Redding and learns about love.
Yeah, she shows up at work the next day. She's like, here's all your stuff back, your Studebagers, your singles, all of your Czechoslovakian beer. By the way, I learned about love last night. He's like, oh yeah? He's like, listen to Otis Redding's song.
And that was it.
Try a little tenderness. Mm-hmm. It taught me about love. And then she also says, oh, by the way, though, I just digitized it. And I'm like, yeah, digitized it.
Yeah.
I know what that is.
Now she doesn't have to pay for it like a sucker.
Like a sucker. But yeah, I mean, that's basically those 2 episodes. I don't know if you had any final thoughts. I got a few like general wrap-up notes here, but
go for it.
Here's 2 things I noticed that we didn't talk about in the episodes, but I wanted to come back to. There's a brief moment in one of the episodes where they show up to the precinct, and apropos to nothing, we just come in mid-scene, and Captain Cleghorn's like, man, you got to get me tickets to the show. I need tickets to the show for my husband. I'm going to get a divorce. I need tickets to the show. And he's like, Captain, I can't get tickets to the show. She's like, I don't know if this is going to be the Who farewell
That's
tour.
right.
She's desperate to go see a Who farewell tour.
No, and she doesn't want to go. Her husband does because she says, I hope it's their last, or one of those things.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, okay. What world building, huh?
But it's just so funny. It's just like the show. They kept saying the show, teasing what it's going to be. And it was like a Who reunion tour. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Weird. And then because we were watching this on these like VHS transfers to YouTube.
Yeah, they don't look good.
They don't look great, but they're also like taped live from television. They're not like VHS DV transfers. What I found interesting is at the end, there's like, a little voiceover explaining what's coming up, what's going on. And this show, Man Machine, was the lead-in to Law and Order.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm just like,
that's very odd.
That's a weird lead-in. Like, they're not going to attract similar audiences at all.
Well, it's just the thought behind that. That's great executive TV. It's just like, you know what? Don't put two shows that are similar that someone might stay
they're
tuning
both
into.
Cops, but there couldn't be further.
No,
apart
they were
cop
just
shows.
like, same guy made both shows.
Yeah.
Dick Wolf. So they'll stay. Because a lot of times when I'm watching TV, I decide on who created the show, and then I just try to watch all those shows in a row.
Yeah.
As a lineup.
Put all the creator shows in a row for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to search them out.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting to be like, man, oh man, what a weird lead-in for Law and Order. Law and Order must have been like, you guys, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for settling us with this.
So what do you want to give the first episode?
I thought about it. I try not to punish it because we didn't watch Almost Human that long ago.
Right.
But it's just like, they could be the same show. It's like just a decade, like 2 decades apart, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to punish it for that. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do a great job, but I don't know. It's like a 3.5. It wasn't good.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree with you. I'm giving it a 4.
4. All right. What about Dating Game?
I thought this was a slightly better episode, and because I like that they said malted milk, that gets 1 point.
Oh.
So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. I mean, it is a slightly better episode. You're not wrong. It is a slightly better episode.
I think this is going to be more of what the show is going to be like, the second episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bad pilot for sure. It's still not good, but if I give the last one 3.5, I think I at least have to go up to 4 for this one. So
Nice.
I'm gonna go up to 4, begrudgingly.
Yeah, and it's not so much that it's like Almost Human. Obviously, this came first, but it has all the problems we had in Almost Human are also in this.
If we had watched these in reverse order, if we'd watched this first and watched Almost Human later, I think I would have given Almost Human much lower ratings.
You're probably right.
I'm realizing watching this, I'm like, Almost Human is this like Almost Human is just trope after trope that this show is just troping through too. And just because we watch them in reverse order, like it could I'm now if I could, I would lower my Almost Human scores, but I can't. It's impossible.
It also suffers from Almost Human had a big budget.
Yeah, I mean,
This
action
does
is
not.
better.
Yeah, action's better. The casting probably. I mean, they had probably some better actors. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think these actors actually do a bad job on this.
They're fine.
But the writing doesn't really give them a lot, and they're just not. It's just not a very good show.
I think the writing on the show is better than Almost Human.
You know what? I think maybe we'll have to see some other episodes to see if that's right.
Well, we'll find out. But I based on kind of the first two, I'm like, you know what? I think the writing might be slightly better.
Well,
lower production value, lower a lot of things, still bad plotting, but I think slightly better writing still.
But more donut dispensing machines.
Oh, can't get enough donut dispensing machines.
Yeah.
Please bring that back. All right, you guys. Let's wrap this up. If you somehow watched the show in the 4 months it was on and
I'll be amazed if someone writes to us and has watched this.
or have any information about the show, you can write to us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. We'll, of course, have little clips and videos and images from the shows up on the Twitter and Instagram account at continuumdrag. And I mean, that about wraps it up. So thanks for joining us, listener. Jordan, good to see you as always.
Yeah, let's go get a malted milk.
Oh, that'd be swell. Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick-Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.